Good afternoon. Please be seated. Routine proceedings. Introduction of bills. Committee reports. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, I'd like to table the sequence for consideration of departmental estimates in the Committee of Supply for today only.
Ministerial statements. Ministerial statements. The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to recognize and celebrate Jewish Heritage Month, a time to honour the rich history, enduring contributions, and vibrant culture of Jewish communities across Manitoba and Canada. The Jewish presence in our province dates back to the 1870s, when Jewish immigrants first arrived seeking freedom, opportunity, and safety from persecution. They brought with them strong values of family, education, faith, and community. And they helped build this province brick by brick, business by business, generation by generation. From establishing early congregations in Winnipeg's North End to opening shops, clinics, schools, theaters, and shelters, Jewish Manitobans have long been woven into the very fabric of our province. They have contributed as teachers, doctors, artists, entrepreneurs, jurists, and public servants, shaping our cultural, economic, and civic life. Jewish Manitobans have played a pivotal role here in the People's Building as well, serving as members of this assembly. Members such as David Ortico, Saul Cherniak, Maitland Steinkoff, Sidney Spivak, Izzy Asper, and Jim Carr all served with distinction. The Honourable Anita Neville, the first Jewish Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba, continues to do so. Jewish Heritage Month is also a time to reflect on the importance of standing against anti-Semitism in all its forms. The Jewish community continues to face threats, discrimination, and hateful rhetoric here and around the world. It's our collective responsibility as legislators and as citizens to ensure that Manitoba remains a place of safety, inclusion, and respect for all people of faith and from all backgrounds. Honourable Speaker, we recognize that so many came to Canada seeking a better life. They came to Canada to escape generational persecution, and in many cases came as survivors of the Holocaust. Our government is committed to preserving and honoring that history, and we are proud to work with experts to mandate Holocaust education in our K-12 system. The fight against all forms of racism and intolerance begins in the education system. By teaching today's young people about the wrongs of the past, we can ensure that our future generations are well equipped to push back against racism, hate, and discrimination wherever they see it. Let us also take time to celebrate the joys of Jewish life, from the wisdom of the Torah to the beauty of Hebrew music and dance, from the traditions of Passover and Hanukkah to the simple blessing of the Halal shared with family and friends. These are gifts that enrich our shared culture and deepen our understanding of one another. Honourable Speaker, today, throughout the month of May and beyond, let us say thank you to Manitoba's Jewish community for their resilience, their leadership, and for their continued contribution to this province we all call home. Mazel tov.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to celebrate Jewish Heritage Month as an opportunity to honour the rich history and invaluable contributions of Jewish Manitobans in our province. It was in the 1870s when Manitoba's first known Jewish residents settled in the province. Shortly after, 300 Jews arrived in Winnipeg after fleeing persecution from the Russian Empire. In just a few short decades, more Jews would begin fleeing persecution in Europe and ultimately the Holocaust. Since these beginnings, Jewish communities have been able to establish deep roots in Manitoba, helping to build our province and see future generations thrive. However, it cannot go without saying that Manitobans are deeply concerned with the increasing rise in anti-Semitism within our communities and across the country. While we recognize Jewish communities for their resilience, we must do more than expect people to be resilient in the face of hate. We must combat hate itself. Let us all work together to ensure safety and security for everyone. May we continue to honor the centuries' worth of contributions that Jewish Canadians made to our beautiful province and country. And may we strive for respect, peace, and understanding of all Manitobans. Thank you.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Honourable Speaker, I ask for leave to respond to the minister's statement.
Does the honourable member for Tyndall Park have leave? Leave has been granted. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. May is Jewish Heritage Month. During the month, we are given opportunities to learn about and recognize the contributions of Jewish Canadians to Canada's social, economic, political, and cultural fabric. Let us be grateful for the information shared with us throughout the year from organizations including the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg, the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, the Winnipeg School Division, Red River College Polytech, plus the Universities of Manitoba and Winnipeg. For those who may not know, there are many events throughout the month. Some include the Winnipeg International Jewish Film Festival, a women's circle hosted by Shabbat Winnipeg, Grey Academy student art exhibits, and many others at the Rady Jewish Community Center and temples throughout our city. I encourage everyone to check out these events and don't forget to support one of the many local Jewish-owned businesses. In closing, Honourable Speaker, I echo many of the thoughts that have been shared here this afternoon, and we need to make sure we continue to raise awareness and spread education about the anti-Semitic crimes that continue to happen. We are friends, allies, and we stand with the Jewish people of Manitoba. Thank you.
Further ministerial statements? The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It is my pleasure to proclaim May 19, 2025 Family Doctor Day. Our government is thrilled to celebrate the family doctors working in our province. They are the foundation of primary care in our communities and are often the first point of contact in our healthcare system, providing compassionate, comprehensive, and continuous care to Manitobans throughout all stages of their lives. Family doctors diagnose and treat illnesses and injuries, promote disease prevention and good health, and coordinate quality patient care and wellness for Manitobans. They don't just treat symptoms. They build relationships, often relationships that span many of life's milestones. They know their patients, they know their stories. They've celebrated births or cancer remissions and have comforted grieving patients as they face difficult losses. They don't just serve as physicians, Honourable Speaker, but as trusted advisors, advocates, and champions of community well-being. Family doctors are foundational to Manitoba's healthcare system. The ongoing relationship between a family doctor and their patients and communities is consistently associated with lower hospitalization rates, emergency department use, and rehospitalization. We are actively, as a government, working towards improving timely access to family physicians in our province, no matter where Manitobans live, to reduce administrative burdens that they face and to create sustainable models that allow for doctors to do what they do best and what they love to do, care for people. And we're making it easier for Manitobans to see a family doctor. We have added over 168 net new doctors to the front lines of our healthcare system. And by And by working with local amazing family practitioners like Dr. Amanda Condon, we've taken steps to open new minor injury and illness clinics. We've opened extended hours primary care clinics, making it easier for Manitobans to get access to primary care. Manitobans now even have access to online booking for same-day appointments, walk-ins, along with those extended hours during evenings, weekends, and holidays. We've created flexibility and increased access for Manitobans and for family practitioners to provide care. These investments will help ensure more timely access to care for patients, reduce pressure on emergency departments, and support family doctors in delivering high-quality, patient-centered care. At the same time, Honourable Speaker, we are focused on building the next generation of healthcare providers. Our government's investing $13.4 million to train 20 additional doctors by expanding residency seats, helping more medical grads complete their training right here in Manitoba, including in Brandon. We're grateful for the work that family doctors do across our great province, and we're working to ensure that new doctors are supported right from the start. In partnership with Doctors Manitoba, we've started the New to Practice program. It builds strong mentorship networks and fosters collaboration among physicians in their first 5 years of practice. Now, these are just some of the initiatives that we are taking to support family doctors in Manitoba because we know how vital they are to Manitobans. We value their knowledge, expertise, and their ability to create connections with our communities. We're grateful for the care and compassion they bring every single day of the year, so the least we can do, Honourable Speaker, is celebrate them on Family Doctor Day and lift them up for everything that they do. Today, I'd like to take a special moment in the chamber here to welcome some guests. For the first time ever in the college's history, they are here with us to celebrate Family Doctor Day. The Manitoba College of Family Physicians, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you folks. Honourable Speaker, we have Dr. Karen Appel, Assistant Professor in the Department of Family Medicine and President of the Manitoba College of Family Physicians, Dr. Ashley Bueller-Restia, Chief Medical Officer at Deer Lodge Centre and Secretary of the Manitoba College of Family Physicians, Dr. Mandy Buss, the Indigenous Health Lead for the Department of Family Medicine and a member of the College of Family Physicians of Canada's Indigenous Health Committee, Lisa Goss, CEO of the Manitoba College of Family Physicians, and Stacey Bailey, the Director of Operations at the Manitoba College of Family Physicians. Honourable Speaker, let's make sure that we celebrate family physicians every single day of the year because every single day they're working to make sure that Manitobans have the best outcomes and the best healthcare system in our great province. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Roblin.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday, May 19th, was Family Doctor Day, and on behalf of all of my colleagues in the Progressive Conservative Caucus, I just want to say thank you to family doctors practicing across Manitoba for everything you do for our communities and for your patients. We know that our family doctors are the first person that we go to most of the time, and they are the beginning of our healthcare journeys and our strongest advocates as we navigate different parts of the healthcare system. Dr. Nichelle Desolé, the incoming president of Doctors Manitoba, is herself a family doctor. And she made a really important comment a couple of weeks ago at Doctors Manitoba's annual awards gala. She said she was speaking to those just starting their academic journey towards a career in medicine. And she made the comment that family medicine is not just a backup plan. It is, in fact, a great first choice for medical students planning their careers. Family doctors are at the forefront of calls to move to more team-based approaches to primary care. They work alongside nurses, pharmacists, and allied health professionals to deliver comprehensive care to their patients. And they practice in a variety of settings. Some of those settings are incredibly challenging in remote fly-in communities, in rural towns, in clinics throughout our communities. And yes, some family doctors will even still make house calls. Family doctors also come to the table with important solutions to help our healthcare system improve. For example, family doctors have long called for a reduction in physician administrative burden. They know that there are better ways to be spending their time than on paperwork. They know they need to be spending time doing what they do best, and that's caring for their patients. And that's why the previous PC government worked with Doctors Manitoba and other stakeholders to establish a task force to reduce physician administrative burden that issued its final report and recommendations late last year. So on behalf of my colleagues in the opposition caucus, I want to once again say thank you to family doctors for playing such a pivotal role in our healthcare system and for being the bedrock of many of our communities and the first point of contact for so many of us when we need help. Thank you.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
I ask for leave to respond to the minister's statement.
Does the honourable member for Tyndall Park have leave? The honourable member for Tyndall Park, leave has been granted.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Yesterday, May 19th, is known as Family Doctor Day. Family physicians are the foundation of our healthcare system. Without them, our ERs, walk-in clinics, they would be even more so overrun with patients seeking care for health needs that could be prevented or treated in a doctor's office or by a pharmacist. Family doctors are a trusted partner in a patient's life. All people, especially persons with chronic conditions and seniors with access to a family doctor, have better health outcomes and fewer hospitalizations, which results in lower healthcare costs for everyone. Now, sadly, many Manitobans do not have regular access to a family physician. Family medicine needs to be supported and sustained through investment, recruitment, and retention, and by supporting them with team-based care, which includes social workers, occupational therapists, knowledge keepers, and other healthcare professionals. Through this, we will build equitable, accessible, wraparound team-supported primary care here in Manitoba. In closing, Honourable Speaker, I'd like to thank those who have joined us today in the gallery and all family physicians throughout our province. We appreciate your compassion and dedication to your patients and all your advocacy work. Thank you.
Prior to member statements, I have a couple of things to take care of. First, I would like to ask that members direct their attention to the table where our hardworking journals clerk, Vanessa Gregg, is celebrating 20 years of dedicated service to this Assembly, officially starting with the Legislative Assembly on May 17, 2005. Vanessa, with her encyclopedic knowledge of all the art in this chamber and her infectious positive attitude, quickly became a fixture in this building. She became a manager of the Visitors Tour program in 2007 before joining the clerks as journals clerk in 2022. Vanessa is universally respected in the Assembly and has built strong, lasting relationships with every single office she works with. We thank her for 20 years of dedicated service and look forward to many more. Congratulations, Vanessa. Now, on a somewhat sadder note, it's another last day for one of our pages. Alea Ambry Hyatt. Alea just graduated from the University of Winnipeg Collegiate and is looking ahead to an exciting new chapter. This fall, she will be attending the University of Manitoba to pursue a degree in forensic psychology with the hopes of minoring in political science. She's incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have served as a page. Before joining the page program, she was uncertain about what direction she wanted to take her future. But through her experience in the chamber and beyond, she found clarity and purpose. One evening, while working a law committee shift, she listened to presenters and MLAs speak passionately about the issues affecting Manitobans. That moment touched her deeply and inspired her to one day help mothers and children through family law, using the insight she gained here to create meaningful change in her community. Throughout her time at the Legislature, she was constantly learning. Every single day brought something new. She is thankful to everyone who supported her journey, especially the chamber staff, who always brightened her day with smiles and good humor, and to her fellow pages, whose thoughtfulness and fun spirit made every shift enjoyable. As she reflects on this past year, she feels proud of how far she has come. She leaves with valuable skills, unforgettable memories, and a heart full of gratitude. She hopes to cross paths with everyone again in the future. And Madeleine Bailey. Madeleine will graduate from the Dauphin Regional Comprehensive Secondary School this June. She is now set to attend the University of Victoria in the fall, where she will be part of the Faculty of Social Sciences. She hopes to obtain her bachelor's degree in political science and plans to pursue a career in law, which means she spent more time debating with her dad than the average person. Turns out that was just early training. Madeleine has always been passionate about the law, politics, and justice issues. During her time as a legislative page, she has been inspired by all of you, listening to your debates, asking questions, and observing your committee work, which demonstrates to her that you are all motivated by your dedication to Manitoba and our democracy. From this experience, she has developed a deep understanding of how our provincial government works and how it shapes our society. She would like to give heartfelt thanks to everyone at the Legislature who supported her throughout this year. Thank you, everyone. We also have some introductions in the public gallery. We have with us from the Down Under Club of Winnipeg on their 75th anniversary, executive team members Peter Munn, Margaret Munn, Charlie Powell, Sam Dawson, Jenny Gates, Brian Hydesmith, and regular members Jacqueline Cassell-Kramer, Arthur Cassell-Kramer, Dennis Woodford, Janet Woodford, Judy Powell, Elizabeth Hydesmith, Pam Saborn, Henry Lemansky, Leon Badali, and Brad Robertson, Manitoba's Chief of Protocol, who are guests of the Honourable Member for Kildonan River East, and we welcome you all here today. And we have seated in the public gallery from Pine Creek Christian School 20 students under the direction of Eric Martin. The group is located in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Agassiz. We welcome you all here today. And we have seated in the public gallery from a homeschool group, 30 students under the direction of Caitlin Enerson. And we welcome you here today. We will now move on to member statements. The Honourable Member for Tuxedo. Transcona.
Honourable Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to come before you today to recognize the exemplary work of Brett Enns of the Transcona Legion Branch Number 7. Brett is born and raised in Transcona and still lives in the community. Growing up, Brett had an uncle who was in the military and was at Juno Beach. Brett heard about the stories of his uncle going through France with the military. The more stories he heard, the more stories he wanted to hear. It made him want to join the military. When Brett tried to enlist in the military when he was younger, he was unable to, as flat feet are a real thing. Brett joined the Transcona Legion Branch Number 7 5 years ago because he wanted to give back to the community. He wanted to help veterans and their families. His responsibilities are many, and he is currently the Sergeant at Arms and oversees the float and memorials. Part of his role is to inform the community about events happening at the Legion. But he also posts about the various days to remember our veterans and important dates. Brett shares poems that were written to honor our fallen heroes. He takes the time to honor the veterans who have been killed in action. He shares their stories. He ensures that they will never be forgotten. Brett, along with another Transconian, Peter Martin, helps to arrange No Stone Left Alone. This is a ceremony at the Transcona Cemetery where students place a poppy on a veteran's grave. Last November, there were over 615 students who participated. One thing Brett is passionate about is Homes for Heroes, a comprehensive supportive housing program that provides wraparound support for veterans. Brett is part of the group who is advocating for a housing village near the Transcona Library. You will see Brett wearing red on Fridays for Remember Everyone Deployed, to remember our warriors so far away. Brett is the guy that everyone calls to help. With the support of his family, he gets to be that guy. That is who he is, a person who wants to get the job done and leave the world a better place. Honourable Speaker, I would ask that we please rise and honour Brett Enns for his dedication and commitment to the Transcona Legion Branch Number 7.
The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonnet.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise with a heavy heart to speak about the profound loss felt in my constituency of Lac du Bonnet. As wildfires tore through our region, they brought devastation, fear, and heartbreak. In the midst of this, we tragically lost two beloved members of our community, Sue and Rich Noel. They returned to their home in an attempt to rescue their pet, but were overtaken by the fast-moving flames. Their final moments were filled with love and selflessness, true to the lives they had lived. They were devoted to their family, animals, and of course, the community. Sue and Rich leave behind their sons, Ryland and Emmett, as well as Sue's older son who lives out of province. To their children, family, and friends, I offer my deepest condolences on behalf of the entire constituency of Lac du Bonnet, and our entire community grieves with you. I want to take this moment to recognize and thank the first responders, firefighters, volunteers, municipal leaders, specifically Reeve Lauren Schinkel, Mayor Jack Briscoe, their councils, the emergency response teams, Parks Branch and EMO who have worked tirelessly around the clock to protect lives, homes, and livelihoods. Your dedication, bravery, and selflessness have not gone unnoticed. To our community volunteers from near and far, people who continue to show extraordinary kindness, step forward to care for those forced to flee, offering warmth, shelter, food, and the reassurance that no one was alone. You are the very best of us. Thanks to these incredible efforts, some of the evacuations have now ended. Families have returned, but many have not. As we step back into our homes, we do so knowing that home is more than walls and a roof. It's the people who stand together in hardship, who lift each other up when the weight of loss feels too great. The Lac du Bonnet constituency is strong. We grieve, we heal, and we move forward together. We thank you with all our hearts.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan River East.
Honourable Speaker, I am proud to rise today to recognize the 75th anniversary of the Down Under Club of Winnipeg. One of my Kildonan River East constituents is a member of the Down Under Club, and he and other members join us today in the gallery. I request that their names be entered into Hansard. The genesis of the Down Under Club of Winnipeg goes back to World War II, where after the war, many of the Australian and New Zealand air crew who trained in Manitoba returned to marry their Canadian sweethearts, which led to the formation of the club. From unexpected and uncertain beginnings, the Down Under Club of Winnipeg has become an active, long-standing, and popular group here in Winnipeg and throughout Manitoba. They make wooden toys for children, donate them to the Salvation Army, and fundraise for local charities. The club has also raised and donated more than $40,000 to international disaster relief. $40,000 to international disaster relief for causes close to our collective hearts. The lifeblood of the Down Under Club of Winnipeg is its members, and the club is committed to providing a welcoming social hub for expat Aussies, Kiwis, and their Canadian families and friends. And we are proud of their efforts to foster Australian, New Zealand, and Canadian relations. I invite all of my colleagues in the chamber to rise and join me in acknowledging this huge milestone for the 75th anniversary of the Down Under Club of Winnipeg.
Here, here.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
The House today to recognize a remarkable community leader from my constituency. I would like to welcome Janine Lauder, who has joined us here today. Janine has been an active volunteer, supporter, and champion for the community of Carman. Among her many efforts, most notably, is Janine's 10 years serving as the chair of the Carman and Area Foundation. In a decade of her involvement, she has helped the foundation grow significantly, totaling over $4 million since its inception. This year alone, the foundation handed out over $194,000 in grants to 49 local community organizations. Through her work with the foundation, Janine has been involved with local fundraising efforts such as golf tournaments and the annual Spring Gala. I attended the gala event this year, and I was incredibly moved when the Clearwater Memorial Playground received special recognition, and you could see and feel the reaction from the over 400 attendees, as this project is a place of recognition and remembrance to the terrible tragedy that occurred in Carman 15 months ago. Janine is now retiring after a decade of serving as chair of the foundation. But knowing Janine, I know she'll continue to be an active cheerleader of the foundation and the amazing Carman community. You can't mention Janine's name in town without someone talking about how incredible she is and how lucky the town is to have her. Thank you, Janine, for everything you have done for the foundation and for the community of Carman.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the hard work and dedication of the many volunteers who work to keep the Corden Community Centre at the very heart of River Heights. Established in 2011 as an amalgamation of the Sir John Franklin, River Heights, and Crescentwood community centres, the Corden Community Centre is constantly changing and adapting to the needs of the surrounding neighbourhoods. Formed in 1922, the Sir John Franklin Community Centre has been hosting recreation and sporting events for over 100 years, in spite of having to relocate several times within the community. The River Heights Community Centre was founded in 1946 as nothing more than a little hockey shack before growing into its present form through crowdfunding and city and provincial grants. The creation of the Crescentwood Community Centre in 1945 would not have been possible without the many generous volunteers who not only raised the necessary funds, but built the first official building almost entirely with volunteer labour. Honourable Deputy Speaker, today the Corden Community Centre carries on a proud legacy of volunteerism that has served our community over many years. Under the strong leadership of a dedicated volunteer board and a handful of determined staff, the Corden Community Centre provides a wide range of well-being, recreation, and sporting activities for people of all ages. And sports like baseball, basketball, gymnastics, hockey, soccer, softball, and tennis provide the Corden Comets with ample opportunity to bring home championship hardware. And they do. Honourable Speaker, I ask my colleagues to join me now in thanking the Centre's many volunteers, their Board of Directors, and their dedicated staff for their ongoing efforts to bring our community together.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I want to start off with recognizing the Winnipeg Jets on a great season and great playoff run. Didn't end the way we wanted, but we love you and we thank you. On that note, we and all Manitobans are sending our thoughts and prayers to Mark Scheifele and his family on the passing of his father, Brad. Also, sadly, this weekend there was another passing in Manitoba sport community as the Oak Park Raiders coach and Pembina Trails trustee Stu Nixon passed away. Our hearts go out to the family and the entire community. Honourable Speaker, as the official opposition, it is our job to ask questions, and Manitobans have the right to know. However, last week, the NDP government did not do their job, and they did not answer any questions. We have presented evidence over and over again in this House showing that Manitobans are paying more on their education and property taxes under this NDP. Will the Premier finally admit today that he was wrong and he misled Manitobans when he falsely claimed, and I quote, 100% of Manitobans are better off?
The member's time has expired. The Honourable First Minister.
The Winnipeg Jets accomplished something remarkable this year. They came in first place in the NHL, cementing something that we've always known. They're the best team in the league. And I think everybody watching the game was just blown away by Mark Scheifele's performance. Your province is behind you, and we join you in grieving your late father. I also send my condolences to the family of Stu Nixon, as well as the folks in Lac-des-Bonnie who I had the opportunity to speak to, who are grieving a loss there as well. When it comes to folks across Manitoba, 100% of Manitobans are better off today because you got a government that adequately funds education.
Yeah, that's right. Here.
On top of that, we brought inflation down by cutting the gas tax, and now we're taking a further step by ensuring that you get a $1,500 tax credit off of your property taxes. The good news, Deputy Speaker, is that's going to go up to $1,600 next year. Wow.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Once again, Manitobans, you heard it here. This Premier believes you are better paying more taxes under his NDP. The province is better when you pay more taxes under this NDP. We've seen it over and over again that families have tabled evidence where their property taxes have gone through the roof under this NDP. Yet this Premier doubles down with his false talking points. Clearly, the truth and facts do not matter for this Premier nor his NDP government. Facts do not lie, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Will the Premier admit today that following in the footsteps of his mentor, Greg Selinger, and increasing taxes is not the right thing to do for Manitobans? Will this Premier reverse his decision and lower education property taxes? Hear, 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 hear.
The Honourable First Minister.
Oh, the member opposite was part of the Heather Stephenson government that Manitobans shudder when they think back to. One of the big reasons why is because education was cut year after year, teachers leaving. We've, under this great education minister, improved funding. That makes everybody, 100% of Manitobans, better off. Right. And the numbers speak for themselves. There's more than 600 additional educators in the classroom with your kids and grandkids right now because of those investments. Now, when it comes to affordability, $1,500, way more than the members opposite ever saw. The biggest tax refunds and tax credits in history have happened under this government. Right. It's the school trustees who set the taxation rates. You have the opportunity to go to the ballot box next year if you're unhappy what's happening this year. But when it comes to the members opposite, we'll do our part and beat them at the ballot box every single chance we get.
I would caution the Leader of the Opposition, the truth and facts, when we say the truth and facts do not matter to the Premier, that implies that someone could be lying. So I just caution the use of language. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Manitobans, once again, you heard it. Under this NDP government, this Premier believes that a $3 billion deficit under his NDP is a good thing. That this Premier believes if you pay more education and property taxes, that's a good thing. And now he is blaming the school trustees and not himself or his failed finance minister. The Premier has budgeted to steal hundreds of millions of dollars from you, hard-working Manitobans. He can deny it all he wants, but the devil is in the details, and clearly this devil is the NDP. Speaking of details and numbers, the NDP on page 8 clearly state that they are taking $182 million from hardworking Manitobans by increasing your education property taxes. Does the Premier have the audacity to stand here and falsely tell Manitobans that he's not increasing your education property taxes?
Yeah.
The Honourable First Minister.
Honourable Speaker, it's pretty clear that the member opposite can't read a budget.
That's right. Yeah.
Nothing he just said there bears any semblance to what's going on in the books this year. What happened with the deficit? They, in a desperate bid to try and get re-elected, made all sorts of promises and blew the deficit to $2 billion. Manitobans saw through that and handed them their walking papers. We came into office and we started saving you money right away by cutting the gas tax. Now we've brought in a $1,500 tax credit.
Right.
If Manitobans want to understand further confusion from the member opposite, just look at what he said there. We don't set the property taxes, the school divisions do. So again, if he wants to run for school trustee, go ahead and do so. But the only person in this House who ever stole anything is a member opposite, who stole the PC leadership from Wally Dodgers, who actually got more votes.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a new question.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Premier obviously has now read his own budget. On page 8, it clearly says a $182 million increase. And his own members and public accounts just passed last week that $300 million surplus was left for him to spend when the PC government left. $300 million. His own members passed that at public accounts. The Premier is getting mad. It's clear to see that. And when the Premier gets mad, he bullies everyone, just like he bullied the member from Fort Garry. If the Premier won't say it's wrong and reverse his decision, will the member for Lagimodiere stand up and defend his constituents? His constituents are seeing double-digit increases in the property and education tax. Will the member for Lagimodiere stand up and do the right thing today?
Yeah.
The Honourable First Minister.
Again, you know, the PCs are the only party in the world who would say that the person who got less votes actually won their leadership contest. I know that Wally Doddridge, the person who emerged on the wrong side of that fiasco, imbroglio, you might like to say, was a little surprised that he wouldn't get the nod as a consolation prize to run in Spruce Woods, the upcoming by-election. He said, and I quote, "I was hoping," referring to the member opposite, "that it would, because I got more votes than he did, it would have gone a long way to help bring the party together again." End quote. Makes sense to most people who voted in the PC leadership too. But when it comes to affordability, we're taking real steps to make you better off. When it comes to healthcare, there are more people working on the bedside today. The only place where we see less and less is when it comes to the common sense department of the PC caucus.
That's right.
If we could stop the clock, I would just like to direct all honourable members to the public gallery, where we have seated from a homeschool group 30 students under the direction of Caitlin Einerson. Thank you for being here. And before we go back to the Leader of the Official Opposition, I would caution him from drawing the Deputy Speaker into debate. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, when we talk about common sense, let's look at some simple numbers. In 2024, education property taxes for a family that was living in Lagimodiere was paying $1,000. In 2025, under this NDP, this same family living in the constituency of Lagimodiere is paying $1,700. That's an increase of $700 under this NDP government. Will the member for Lagimodiere stand up and defend his constituents, or will the Premier continue to add false narrative to this chamber here today?
Could we stop the clock? So I'd just like to point out to the Leader of the Official Opposition that while he may want to ask members from the opposite side to comment when the members are in the chair, that is drawing the Speaker into debate. So I would ask that he not draw the Deputy Speaker into the debate while I am in the chair. So, with 19 seconds, the Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I was merely asking the Premier if he could comment on why he thinks it's fair to increase the taxes of the people living in Lagimodiere.
The Honourable First Minister.
You know, the majority of PC party members would agree that Wally Doddridge would have figured it out by now. That's right. But when it comes to the PCs coming here and talking about your taxpayer dollars, why don't they address the very shameful chapter of those ads about the landfill? Like, who in the PC party of these elected officials thought it was a good idea to run ads attacking the families of the victims of a serial killer?
Shame.
It's like one of the worst crimes that's ever been done in Manitoba history, and they tried to take advantage by running ads. And here's the thing, Manitobans, you actually paid for those ads. Because of the $650,000 the PC spent on those ads, they applied for a rebate, and they got about $160,000 of your taxpayer dollars back. So with the final question that he clearly does not understand he's about to pose, would the member instead switch, stand up, and explain if he's going to return $160,000 of your taxpayer dollars that were spent on those disgusting advertisements?
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'm asking questions about this NDP government and how this government has increased education property taxes in Manitoba, how this Premier is making life harder for Manitobans. The Premier wants to dodge, duck, and deflect any questions and any accountability. So I'll ask him here today, will the Premier stand up and tell Manitobans how much did he and his NDP government increase education and property taxes the last 2 years? Spoiler alert, Honourable Deputy Speaker, it's $330 million. That's the increase under this NDP government. So I'll give the Premier one last chance. Will he stand up and apologize to Manitobans for increasing their taxes by $330 million?
The Honourable First Minister.
You know, I'm so happy to come to work every day and to explain the good work that we're doing. We cut the gas tax. They charge it every single day. We've staffed up more than 1,500 workers on the front lines of our healthcare system after they fired them. We've added dozens of police officers after 55 cops left the front lines under their watch. So I'll give the member opposite one more chance, because he's on thin ice if he has to face a leadership review in the next PC convention. Again, $160,000 of your hard-earned money. On this side, we're giving it back. $1,500 this year, $1,600 next year. His party is keeping 100 times more of your taxpayer dollars for those landfill ads. Will he return that money? They've said that they're sorry for the ads, but apologies are empty words without restitution. Will they return the money to you, the taxpaying public, and maybe compensate the families who they attacked with those terrible ads?
The Honourable Member for Midland.
A hardworking family living in a 1,600 square foot house in the Winnipeg School Division reached out to share their NDP tax hike bill. This family is now paying $3,300 in education property taxes. They are watching today. What does this minister have to say to the family that has seen a 55% increase in their education property tax bill this year?
Good one. Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
We're proud to share that we're making life more affordable for Manitobans. We did that in our last budget and in this budget. Now, it started out, of course, with our gas tax cut. The entire year, we offered that gas tax holiday. We also brought in personal income tax cuts that are saving money for Manitobans across the province. Our last budget We brought in a $1,500 education property tax credit. It's going to lower your cost of education property taxes. And our recent budget raised that to $1,600. We are doing the work of making life more affordable for hardworking Manitobans.
The honourable member for Midland with a supplementary question.
This family also shared their 2024 tax bill, which they paid $1,100. In 2025, with the rebate, they'd be paying $1,800 in education property taxes. That's a 55% tax increase. However, adding insult to injury, there was no $1,500 rebate added to the bill. This NDP was sloppy with their rollout, and now this family, along with many other Winnipeggers, are missing the rebate from their bills. How many other homeowners are missing their rebate from this NDP government?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Well, we're doing that important work of making life more affordable for Manitobans. We brought in that $1,500 rebate. We increased it to $1,600. And while we're doing that, of course, we're properly funding our education system for the first time in many, many years. We're doing that important work. We brought in, of course, the Universal School Nutrition Program, and of course, that's part of our work of doing the important work of funding education and supporting our kids. What did the members opposite do with education dollars? They wrote checks for billionaires. They give out $1 million checks to folks on Bay Street. So while they gave out checks to folks working on Bay Street, we're going to do that work of handing out food to those kids who need it in our province. We're supporting them. We're funding education while we make life more affordable.
Great job. Great job.
The honourable member for Midland with the final supplementary question.
This wasn't only sloppy, but this minister should be embarrassed, because to add even more insult to injury, this family received an NDP insert claiming the government was saving them money. A $3,300 education tax bill, a 55% increase, and no tax rebate is not saving this family any more dollars. This minister should be embarrassed with this sloppy rollout on education property taxes. Why is he targeting hardworking families in the Winnipeg School Division with his tax hikes?
Here, here. Good one.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
One of the biggest tax threats Manitobans face is the Trump tariff tax. And guess who supports the Trump tariff tax, Honourable Speaker? The Leader of the members opposite. That is by far the biggest fiscal threat Manitoba, Canada faces. And we know that the Leader of the members opposite champions those tariff taxes on Manitobans and Canadians. That's shameful. To my critic, what I would offer the main city in their riding, Carman, 97% of taxpayers are going to be better off in Carman. Will the member go back to our community members and apologize for fighting against their best interests?
Great job. Great job.
The honourable member for Roblin.
As Manitobans receive their property tax bills, they're noticing a trend. What the NDP government says and then what happens are two different things.
Yep.
The Premier and his ministers talk and talk and talk, but tax bills are going up and up and up. Why is this Minister of Finance misleading Manitobans when Manitobans are paying higher property taxes than ever before?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, as the Premier stated earlier, we do not set divisional tax increases. That happens at the school division level. But we are responsible for making life more affordable, and that's exactly what we're doing with our $1,500 rebate, now a $1,600 rebate that is lowering the cost of those education taxes, because that's what this team is focused on, reducing costs for Manitobans. And of course, we're not only reducing the cost of your education property taxes, we're also reducing the cost of your energy. We brought in a fuel tax holiday, now a 10% permanent cut to fuel taxes. Pair that with our hydro rate freeze. This team's doing the work of making life more affordable.
Great job.
The honourable member for Roblin with a supplementary question.
No member of the NDP seems willing to stand up and represent their constituents. We've heard from constituents of the member for Waverley reaching out to share that their tax bills have gone up dramatically. Why is the Minister of Finance hiking property taxes by thousands of dollars for constituents of the member for Waverley?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
expensive, Honourable Speaker? Jacking up hydro rates on Manitobans
right.
and bits of bills. Doing it in new and creative ways that Manitobans had never seen. That was their approach. They raised costs on Manitobans in ways that weren't transparent, weren't clear. That's their MO. They also, of course, increased costs on renters, Manitobans who need help more than anyone else. They jacked up taxes on renters by $175. That's their record. Their record is one of making life more expensive for Manitobans. Ours is one of making costs go down. That's something we're going to keep focusing on every day because we're here working for hardworking Manitobans.
Love that.
The honourable member for Roblin with a final supplementary question.
This morning, one of my own constituents reached out to me near tears because the homeowner's affordability tax credit is missing from her bill. And the only solution this NDP government can offer is that she has to claim it at tax time. But in the meantime, she needs to pay this full amount. How did the finance minister botch this rollout so badly? And what is he doing to ensure that Winnipeg taxpayers get the tax credit they're entitled to today?
Here, here.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, again, we're continuing to do that important work of making life more affordable. Our last budget brought in 25 ways to save in 2025. We know how important it is that we continue to do the work of lowering costs for Manitobans, and that's something we've done, of course, when it comes to energy, when it comes to school taxes, and on and on and on. The members opposite made life more expensive. Now, I know that the leader of the members opposite might not think that a $1,500 check is a lot, and that's because he got a $500,000 check from the former leader. That's a lot bigger. But for the average Manitoban, $1,500 is a lot of money. We know that means a lot, and we're going to keep doing the work of lowering costs for Manitoba.
Very well played.
The Honourable Member for Lactobane.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And it's unfortunate that the Finance Minister is too busy standing on two sets of books in order to answer any of the questions coming from our side of the House today. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I have heard from the River Heights families that the NDP tax hikes are making it hard to plan for their own finances. Will the Minister of Innovation and New Technology break the silence from his NDP colleagues and stand up for his constituents? Has the Minister shared his concerns with his Cabinet colleagues?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Admittedly, having a hard time sussing out what the question was there, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity to keep talking about the important work we're doing to make life more affordable, which is very different from what we saw after 7.5 years under the members opposite, when they made life more expensive for almost everybody. Renters, everybody on their energy bills was paying more, and of course, farmers. We had producers' costs going up because what did they do? They jacked up the cost of Crown leases. There were no Manitobans that were spared their work of making life more expensive. What are we doing in every corner of the province? We're working to make life more affordable.
Great job.
The Honourable Member for Lactobane with a supplementary question.
Deputy Speaker, I see the seatbelt light is on again in the rest of the Cabinet on the NDP side, Deputy Speaker. One River Heights family shared with me that they are being charged hundreds of dollars more. They're being charged hundreds of dollars more, yet this NDP Cabinet call that affordability and hope by gaslighting Manitobans that Manitobans are going to start to believe it, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Why is the member for River Heights, a minister, letting his Cabinet colleagues tax his constituents so aggressively?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, again, it's great to get up here and be able to talk about the long list of things we're doing to make life more affordable for Manitobans. Whether it's our homeowner affordability tax credits, it's our 10% permanent cut to the gas tax, whether it's the fact that we keep making life more affordable for renters, who again had their taxes increased by $175 by the members opposite. What Manitobans can have confidence in every single day is that they chose to send us a government to this building that was going to focus on making their costs lower, and that's exactly what we're going to keep doing every single day. Good job.
And with a final supplementary question, the honourable member for Lac du Bonnet.
Deputy Speaker, John Gerard is listening at home today. Another family that was better off under the 50% PC rebate on the road to equitably funding education. Why is that member, the member for River Heights, putting party before constituents and talking points before facts, Honourable Deputy Speaker?
The Honourable First Minister.
With the member for Lac du Bonnet asking a question period, I figured I'd stand and address the most important issue in his constituency today. I want to issue thanks for all the folks who helped with the evacuation in Lac du Bonnet RM, the town, the RM of Alexander. Our hearts are with those who lost the family members, and being there in the community was really something. To be able to speak to that family directly, to be able to speak to evacuees directly, to be able to go to the wildfire service and thank the firefighters, to thank the people flying the planes, to be able to thank the COs who are offering trauma supports to those people who are dealing with what they've seen on the front lines. I even met the person who rescued the black bear. There's one thing I didn't see in Lac du Bonnet last weekend that I'm very, very happy to update the House on. One thing we didn't see in Lac du Bonnet was anyone playing politics.
The honourable member for Borderland.
While the Minister of Public Service Delivery talked about a Buy Canada plan, his cabinet colleagues were negotiating to send millions of dollars to Texas and California. Why is this NDP government sending taxpayer dollars south? And when will they finally get on board, do the right thing, and support Canadian businesses and jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our government care about our businesses here in Manitoba. We care about Manitobans. We are listening to Manitobans, and we are listening to businesses here in Manitoba. Unlike member opposite who want to be the 51st state, that will never gonna happen. Member from Midland, only thing her concern was budget is good, but why not be giving money to Elon Musk? And on the other side, opposition House leader only thanked Trump for the tariff. So again, we will take no lessons from them. Thank you.
The order. The honourable member for Borderland.
Yeah, unfortunately for the minister and for Manitobans, there was no answer there. The only ones in this Manitoba legislature who have given government contracts to American companies in the middle of a trade war is this NDP government. We have now learned that the Minister of Innovation and New Technology was signing multi-million-dollar deals with American tech firms just days after Donald Trump applied tariffs on Canada. I tabled just two to show the hypocrisy of the Canoe government. How many millions of untendered dollars has this NDP government sent south of the border?
The Honourable Minister of Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Our government is reviewing all the contracts and procurement policies to make sure we are getting the most benefit for Manitobans. I have heard from many people who are looking for a way to help. Manitobans can look online at our Support Local, Buy Local website to find local business in Manitoba here. Honourable Speaker, as I said earlier, we are reviewing every single contract that we have with the United States. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
And with a final supplementary question, the honourable member for Borderland.
Not good enough, Speaker. Absolutely not good enough. This NDP government gave multi-million-dollar untendered contracts to American firms in the middle of a trade war. This is an absolute betrayal of the Manitoba taxpayer. Where is this government's Buy Canadian policy?
The Honourable Minister of Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The member of Borderland thinks Canada should be 51 states, which is not going to happen, okay? The member from Midland thought budget 2025 was so amazing. Her only complaint was that we aren't giving a rebate on Tesla to Elon Musk. And worst of all, the leader of opposition said, "Thank you to Donald Trump for bringing this horrible tax." Luckily, Manitobans have rejected the failed PC government and elected a team that will always stand up for our people, our jobs, and our economy. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The government's recent policy directive on literacy screening does not go far enough. Unlike Bill 225, it does not require that parents be notified of screening results. During second reading, members of this government agreed with Bill 225, emphasizing that it's important to engage parents in the education process and that it is crucial for identifying and addressing learning challenges. I table this. Does the minister agree with the bill and her government colleague? And if so, why is the Minister of Education refusing to adopt this idea?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question and an opportunity to get up and speak about the very exciting announcement that we made just a few weeks ago about introducing universal early screening tools into schools across all of Manitoba. And to correct the record, it actually is the case that in working with school divisions in implementing this fantastic new announcement, part of that directive is absolutely going to be for schools to communicate with parents in developing the plan to address whatever needs are identified during the use of that tool. So I couldn't agree more with the member opposite that communication with parents is at the forefront of our education policy. Very excited to work with her further on this exciting announcement.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Honourable Speaker, experts in child development recommended that students be screened for literacy challenges at least twice per year, a standard clearly outlined in Bill 225. The government's directive falls short, and it only offers vague commitments with no requirement for ongoing screening. This has been noted by school divisions and teachers who consulted on Bill 225. I'd like to ask the minister, who did this government consult with to determine that only one screening is required?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Again, I thank the member opposite for the opportunity to get up and to clarify the record. It was clear in our news release, and it's been clear in our department's communication with school divisions, that in fact students will be screened not once, but twice a year for at least 3 years between the period of kindergarten to grade 4. And and the member is correct that we did a very comprehensive and wide consultation on this bill. I would like to table for the House comments from Dyslexia Canada in supporting our announcement. Dyslexia Canada says, Dyslexia Canada applauds the Government of Manitoba for announcing universal early reading screening. This is a significant step forward, ensuring that all children, especially those at risk for dyslexia, receive the support that they need to become confident and capable leaders. We are excited to continue.
The honourable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This government is being anti-democratic. The Bill 225, unanimously passed second reading on April 15th here in the House. Since then, individuals, including doctors, speech-language pathologists, teachers, and parents, even members of this very government, they have signed up to speak at committee in support of this legislation and to have their voices heard. Will this government do the right thing, the democratic move, allow for Manitobans to contribute towards this legislation, and send Bill 225 to committee?
The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Again, I thank the member for the question. Very excited to work with her on improving literacy outcomes here in Manitoba. Our government chose not to wait for Bill 225, and we knew that we could do this important work with a policy directive, which we were excited to announce. But I think it's important to think, the member opposite spoke about being anti-democratic, and I take great exception to that comment, Honourable Speaker. And if she is concerned about anti-democracy, she should confer with the members that she regularly sits with and confers with about why they are delaying important bills that have been introduced in this legislature in this session. Bills that would this is what the members opposite stand for. They stand against bills that would remove hateful and divisive campaigns. They stand against bills that
the minister's time has expired. The honourable member for McPhillips.
Honourable Speaker, last week our government signed a memorandum of understanding with the Government of Ontario, taking another step to breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. We know that for 7.5 years the opposition sat on their hands and did nothing to improve interprovincial trade barriers, and today they profusely thank Trump for attacking Manitoban families with tariffs. Can the Premier please share with the House the details of the MOU and what we're doing to unlock free trade across Canada?
The Honourable First Minister.
I want to thank our colleague from McPhillips. He's somebody with real-world business expertise and a good understanding of the economy. Unlike the members opposite, who've never worked a day in their lives and are all lined up at the public trough.
That's right.
Now, when it comes to building up this country that we love so much, we're knocking down trade barriers. We will never be the 51st state, and we will always be the true north, strong and free. We signed this MOU so that we could advance the project of having free trade in Canada by Canada Day. The members opposite still chirping can do their part by making sure that this bill passes before the House rises. And you know, Premier Ford and I always have a good back and forth. He says, you know, I don't think you're really NDP. And I say, well, I don't think you're really PC, because in Manitoba, the PCs are broke, they lose elections, and they love Donald Trump.
The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, just hours before the start of the May-long weekend, Parks Canada announced they would ban motorized watercraft from Clear Lake for the 2025 season. This was a complete reversal of the decision in January to return to the one boat, one lake system. Can the minister share when they were first notified of this change by Parks Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Well, let me just say that we recognize on this side of the House the magnificent beauty and value that Clear Lake is to our province. We understand that it is a great recreational spot. It's a great economic driver for our province. We want to ensure that Clear Lake remains that for time to come. To answer the question directly, I found out on Friday.
The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, besides affecting the managed cottage owners with boats, this last-minute boat ban directly affects the Clear Lake Marina, which offers lake cruises and watercraft rentals. Will the minister pick up the phone today and tell the federal government to reverse this decision?
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member opposite for the question. We know Clear Lake, Manitoba is a very beautiful spot that a lot of Manitobans care about deeply, and we want to make sure that there's a lot of economic activity that can happen as a result of the beautiful assets we have in Manitoba, and that's why we've already reached out to the federal environment minister with a letter to ensure that we advocate for businesses in the community and that they know that we have their back, supporting the economic activity in the Clear Lake region and for the use of all Manitobans, and I'll table that letter today.
And with a final supplementary question, the Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, last year the minister promised financial support for businesses affected by the closure of Clear Lake to boating. Can the minister tell the House how much money they allocated in 2024 to supporting the business community of the Clear Lake area?
The Honourable Minister of Business, Mining, Trade and Job Creation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I appreciate the members opposite reminding Manitobans how we've been consistent in our advocacy for the economic activity around Clear Lake and the business community there. I've had pleasure of having great conversations with business leaders there and advocating for their support from the federal government to help them during this challenging economic time. We know that closure to motorized boats on Clear Lake will have an economic impact, but we're here as a provincial government to advocate for those business owners to the federal government, and that's why we've written a letter to the Minister of Environment. This is real work, real action that our government is taking to support economic activity and the business community right across Manitoba, and particularly at Clear Lake.
The honourable member for Springfield-Rochelle.
I have a constituent in Springfield who is suffering terrible mental health issues. Unfortunately, his house went up for auction because of tax arrears. At the end of this month, the house is to be demolished and he has nowhere to go. Approached the Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness. The file was transferred to families and then to the Minister of Health. This man needs help. He needs an assessment. The community is trying their best. I would ask anyone on the other side if they would please reach out, get this individual an assessment before his house is demolished and he has nowhere to go.
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Certainly, the member opposite knows that we take casework very, very seriously, and certainly if there's a level of urgency to any casework that any member of this House has, I always encourage folks to bring it to myself or the appropriate person directly. So of course, I'd be more than happy to meet with that member immediately after question period and have a conversation about this and see what support we can offer this constituent. I would say, you know, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is so important that we work across party lines and have those direct conversations. I think that not politicizing these really important issues that Manitobans face is an important approach, one that our government takes seriously.
And with that, time for oral questions has expired. Petitions. The honourable member for Brandon West.
Well, thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number one, on May 1st, 2022, Jordan Reimer, 24 years of age, was killed by an impaired driver while she was acting as a designated driver. Number two, there are two people legally culpable for her death: the impaired driver and the accomplice. The driver was charged, but the second criminal, the accomplice, has not been held accountable. Number three, a concerned citizen took the keys from the impaired driver earlier in the evening to ensure he could not drive impaired. The accomplice retrieved the keys from the citizen under false pretenses and knowingly provided the impaired driver with access to the vehicle. Number four, the Winnipeg Police Services, WPS, investigation provided adequate evidence to meet the charging standards and recommended charges be laid against the accomplice. The Crown prosecutors declined to prosecute the accomplice. Number five, the family of Jordan Reimer has called for the prosecution of the accomplice and that the decision to not prosecute be reviewed independently. Number six, as recently as 2022, there is precedent to refer criminal files of decisions to not proceed with prosecution to extra provincial departments of justice for review. This was done with the Peter Nygaard file, which ultimately led to a reversal in the decision to not prosecute, and charges were laid. Number 7, an out-of-province review is supported by MAD Canada, MAD Winnipeg, and by Manitobans. Number 8, the family has exhausted every avenue within the existing system, and in the absence of a prescribed process, when a disagreement exists on charging standards, the only option is to request an independent out-of-province review. Number 9, in December 2024, the WPS reported an alarming number of impaired drivers in the holiday check stop program, extending criminal culpability beyond the driver to those who engage in overt actions to facilitate impaired driving will save lives. Number 10, Manitobans deserve to have confidence in the provincial government and justice systems to make decisions that achieve true justice for victims and their families. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows: to urge the provincial government to order an out-of-province review of the prosecutor's decision to not prosecute the accomplice in the death of Jordan Reimer. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this petition was signed by Larson Nelson, Kim Skoke, Linda McDonald, and many, many other fine Manitobans.
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I wish to present the following petition to the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba. The background to this petition is as follows. Number 1, Kelly Verwey, a beloved young woman from Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, was tragically killed in a car crash caused by a repeat violent offender with a long criminal history. Number 2, despite repeated violations of his bail conditions, the offender was free to roam the streets and to ultimately claim Kelly's life. This tragedy was entirely preventable. Number 3, while the criminal code falls under federal jurisdiction, provinces have been given the responsibility for the administration of justice, allowing for meaningful provincial action on bail reform to ensure public safety. Number 4, other provinces have taken proactive steps to strengthen bail enforcement, but Manitoba has not used all the available tools to address this issue effectively. Number 5, the provincial government has the ability and the responsibility to advocate for and implement measures that protect its citizens by ensuring that repeat violent offenders are not released into our communities without proper safeguards. Number 6, immediate action is required to close gaps in the justice system that allow dangerous criminals to remain free, which puts innocent Manitobans at risk. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. Number 1, to urge the provincial government to take immediate and decisive action on bail reform to address the serious deficits in enforcement by utilizing all available provincial mechanisms to strengthen warrant enforcement, increasing bail supervision, and opposing release of offenders, thus ensuring that repeat violent offenders are held accountable and that public safety is prioritized over leniency. And number 2, to urge the provincial government to lobby the federal government to immediately repeal provisions of the criminal code that allow for the continued victimization of law-abiding Manitobans while granting repeat offenders additional rights. This petition has been signed by Samir Nanda, Mackenzie Snell, and Nicole Fontaine, along with many, many Manitobans. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Seeing no further petitions, grievances, the Honourable Member for Elmwood.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to my longtime great friend and colleague, Jason Shrier, who left us suddenly on April 29, 2025. I'd like to express my heartfelt condolences to Jason's wife, Sarah, and sons, Ramsey and Jared. My heartfelt condolences also go to Jason's father and mother, Right Honourable Edward and Lily Shrier, sisters Carmel and Lisa, and brother Tobin, and to the entire Tena family. Jason was the son of a former Manitoba Premier Ed Shrier and Lily Shrier, and the grandson of Jake Schultz, Lily's father, who was a founding member of the National Farmers Union in Manitoba and became an MP for the CCF in 1957. Jason accomplished a big upset by defeating incumbent City Councillor Thomas Steen in 2014, a feat that rarely happens, and re-elected in 2018 and 2022 in the Elmwood East Kildonan ward. Jason had politics in his blood. During the 1988 provincial NDP leadership campaign, Jason officially joined the Manitoba NDP, and we were both active in the Maureen Hemphill leadership campaign, and he acted as our ambassador to the Len Harapiak campaign, and made his first run for public office in the 1993 federal election of the riding of Selkirk-Red River. Jason later worked for his progressive predecessor at City Hall, Councillor Lillian Thomas. Jason had a talent for producing political leaflets. He went from appearing in our leaflet in 1988 to producing them when I was MP for Elmo-Transcona. Between 2008 and 2011, Jason was in charge of my leaflets from my MP's office. He had an eye for design and a great talent for putting together an exceptional product. Being a perfectionist, however, had its drawbacks, especially with the timeframes of election campaigns. But Jason could square the circle, and when it counted, and would then become the person who distributed the leaflets with Sarah, Jared, and other family members, often until late at night. Jason was a veteran of the Elmwood sign wars from 1988 and on. Before that, Russ Johnston, the uncle of our longtime Elmwood president, Ed Innes, was the sign chair, and who was then joined by Pablo Herrera, and then Jason adopted the Ed Ennis method of perfection in signs. Now, these signs, they're all the same size, and they're all the same height, and they're all facing in the same direction, which you would expect from the professional engineer that Ed Ennis is. Jason adopted the same system. He could erect a full, large sign by himself in record time, which is impossible for the average person to do. Jason always had a vision to win. The logistical answer was to be on the street full-time, living in my truck until late at night, starting months before the election even began. Election nights were always spent attaching special thank you signs onto our regular signs on Main Street locations, a job that always lasted way too long, till 2 or 3 in the morning. The next day, the removal of, the tear down, and the storage of the signs began, and that would last another week, minimum. Jason and I and Randy Schultz and Ed Innes logged hundreds of hours in the truck during the elections, almost non-stop, through our provincial, federal, and municipal campaigns. As a result of this campaigning method, our efficiency skyrocketed, and so Jason, Randy Schultz, and I probably ran the cheapest campaigns with the most visibility and proven results, and that's hard to beat. Jason loved working with people. He worked for my colleague Steve Ashton when he was infrastructure minister, and during the 2011 federal election, we were able to arrange provincial funding for the Plessy Road underpass in less than a week. And this project wasn't even on anybody's priority list. Together, Jason and I would work on issues like local crime. This was especially true in the last municipal election of October 2022, where Jason and I ran into many people who had garages broken into and catalytic converter thefts, which helped us focus on issues that evolved eventually into the current provincial security camera rebates and the provincial catalytic converter legislation. We also supported City Councillor Brian Mays, who has worked to speed up the separation of our combined sewer system to stop the problem of sewer backup into our basements and sewer overflow into the Red River. This should not take an extra 50 years. We also demanded assistance from homeowners who have lead water pipes running from the street to the basement, which should all be replaced as soon as possible according to Health Canada. Another long overdue issue is the replacement of the second oldest bridge in Winnipeg, the Louise Bridge. Built at the time of the shootout at the OK Corral in 1881, we spent countless hours distributing leaflets and collecting signatures in a long-standing effort to replace the bridge with 3 lanes in each direction and keeping the old bridge as local access and an active transportation link. Jason even insisted on publishing pictures of the underside of the Louise Bridge, featuring numerous plywood patches covering many holes still on the old 2-lane functionally obsolete bridge. And those patches are still there today. We go there by the boat, take pictures of them. Jason was also responsible for restarting the Elmwood Seed Campaign, which had stopped in 2011. Jason had the great idea of restarting the seed distribution during the COVID-19 pandemic. And while I was buying Mackenzie seed packets, Jason went back to where we got the original idea. And that was in 1966. Burroughs MLA Ben Hannischuk came up with the idea, former speaker by the way, with the idea of buying seeds in bulk, filling bags by hand and stapling a label on the seeds. Jason, as the councillor, briefly became one of the largest seed wholesalers in Winnipeg. And he, Sarah, and Jared spent an enormous chunk of the pandemic producing bags of seeds, which they distributed to every house in the Elmwood East Kildonan ward with a printed planting instructions carefully inserted in each package. Another great idea Jason had was the big yellow Keep Concordia ER sign campaign to get the Pallister government to back down on the closure of the Concordia ER. Originally, the Pallister Conservatives decided to close the ER totally in 2016. And after we had like 700 yellow signs up on main streets and corner lots, a year later, the government relented and it proposed a clinic, which really satisfied no one. And it wasn't until June of 2019 the government backed down. They agreed to an urgent care facility just months before the provincial election. Jason was an animal lover, and when in late 2020, we lost both our dog Lola and cat Chica, both kidney failure. Once again, Jason came to the rescue. And we drove up to Arborg during the pandemic to see Ed Shrier's longtime friend, Ed Dern, and adopted 2 cats, Taco and Chico, who are still with us today. Jason referred us to his old school classmate, Karina Gurvinsky, who is the founder of a dog welfare organization called Feed the Fur Babies Canada organization. We got our great rescue dog, Chola, who's still with us. These are just a handful of the great experiences we got to share with the best friend a person could have. Jason was a good father who spent an enormous amount of time with his son Jared, including mentoring him on every aspect of political campaigning, from leaflet dropping with Dad beginning at age 5 to all the fine details of sign campaigning. We find it hard to believe that Jason is gone. We keep expecting the doorbell to ring, and Jason will be there. Thank you for being the best friend ever. Rest in peace, Jason. Honorable Speaker, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence.
Is there a leave for a moment of silence? Orders of the day, government business. The Honorable Government House Leader.
Miigwech, Honourable Deputy Speaker, two things. Pursuant to Rule 34(7), I am announcing the private member's resolution to be considered on the next Tuesday of private member's business will be one put forward by the Honourable Member for Burrows. The title of the resolution is Supporting the Agriculture Industry in Manitoba. And also, can you please resolve the House into the Committee of Supply for the consideration of departmental estimates?
It has been announced pursuant to Rule 34(7), the private member's resolution to be considered on the next Tuesday of private member's business will be one put forward by the Honourable Member for Burrows. The title of the resolution is Supporting the Agricultural Industry in Manitoba. And as announced, we will resolve into Committee of Supply for departmental estimates. Deputy Speaker, take the chair. Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates for the Department of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism. This time we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber. Would the Minister like to introduce her staff in attendance? The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So with me, I have my Deputy Minister, who is Jeff Anachuk. I have Mike Sosiak, and I have my DOMA Director of Ministerial Affairs, Chantel Bacon.
Thank you for that, Minister. Would the official critic like to introduce the staff in attendance for him? The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Of course, I'd like to introduce my staff. We have attending with us today is Garush Buttar, who's a key member of our staff, doing a tremendous amount of research and helps guide us along.
Thank you for that. As per sub rule 77 bracket 15, questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The last time we got together was a lot of time that seemed to be wasted and not a lot of answers. So hopefully today we can actually get down to some answers. The first one question I have is just a clarification. In something that looks to be just a simple typo on page 28 of the supplements, it says that in 2022, Tourism Manitoba supports over 25,000 direct and indirect jobs across the province, a significant increase from 1,666 jobs in 2022. Being that they both reference the same year, I'm assuming that it is a typo. And I'd just like to see if we can get the Minister to confirm if the sentence should read, in 2023, tourism in Manitoba supported over 25,000 direct and indirect jobs across the province.
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So in reference to the question, it appears to be a typo, and so it should read, in 2023, visitors spent $1.82 billion in Manitoba, generating $373 million in provincial taxes and contributing $1.3 billion to the province's real GDP. And then the next sentence should read in 2023, not 2022. Tourism in Manitoba supports over 25,000 direct and indirect jobs across the province, a significant increase from 18,666 jobs in 2022. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'd like to thank the Minister for the answer to that question. I think we're going to be onto something great today. We're getting some answers. So as stated by the Department, tourism saw significant growth under our PC government. In the 2023 fiscal year, the number of tourism visits to Manitoba increased by 1.7 million from the previous year. In 2024-25, the NDP government targeted an increase of only 400,000. The next year, they're targeting an increase of only 100,000. How is the minister claiming to boast tourism but anticipates less visitor growth over these 2 years?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So the question is regarding tourism, which is a remarkable part of the department that I am responsible for. We have an incredible province, we have incredible attractions, and I was thrilled to be able to announce in this year's budget that we have increased our budget in 2025 to build on the current investment that is $13.9 million to Travel Manitoba. So we are providing an additional $4.5 million, which is very exciting. We heard, from Travel Manitoba that they are just utterly thrilled with this new investment in dollars to be able to market our incredible province to the rest of Canada and right here at home to folks who want to spend their money for taking trips and have decided, that they're not wanting to support the U.S. And so where can they travel right within their province? And so we're wanting to, of course, attract more out-of-province visitors. We welcome our American neighbors to continue to take part in our incredible fishing and lodge experiences around our province. And of course, with all of that tourism comes great economic return, which is a bonus for our province. Tourism is an incredible economic driver. And so, of course, we get a great return on our investment. We generate an increased provincial and local tax revenues. And of course, that means that we are able to pay down and reduce the provincial deficit that was left for us by the former PC government. So tourism, of course, we had an all-time high of $440 million in film production last year, which was really incredible. And our investments in Manitoba's film and production have drawn millions of dollars into our local economy from international investors. We're well known for our incredible world-class film crews and having the best tax credit in Canada for our film industry, which is something that we're incredibly proud of. So we wanted to ensure that we've streamlined the intake process, and that also removes the administrative barriers and burden on film productions that can apply for the tax credit. So we just really want to continue to grow the film industry in Manitoba, which really does contribute to our tourism economy. We have people from all over the U.S. and across international borders that come and utilize our beautiful province for production and for filming different projects. And we welcome them here. They spend a lot of money on the local economy with hotels and restaurants and taking in our local attractions. I would like to point out that the PCs have had their own failures with regards to the current leader of the opposition. He was, a failed Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism, or just Sport, Culture, Heritage. He thanked Donald Trump for tariffs. I mean, I don't even understand that. And they pose a very large threat to our Canadian economy and our provincial economy. So I'm still confused by that. I think we're all confused by that. So that's why our government is working with provincial and federal counterparts and the provincial and federal governments to stand against these tariffs. Our premier just got back from signing a memorandum of understanding to reduce interprovincial trade barriers with the premier of Ontario to promote our local economy right here at home. And so while the members opposite are open to us becoming the 51st state, our country, we've stopped sending money to Elon Musk. we don't support this at all. And we want to ensure.
The minister's time has expired. The honourable member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We're second question, and we're off the rails. The member says they're confused, and I believe that they are. The question was very clearly, and I'll state it again. The PC government in 2023 in the fiscal year, the number of tourism visits to Manitoba increased by 1.7 million people from the previous year. In 2024, the NDP government targeted an increase of only 400,000. And the next year, in 25-26, they're targeting only an increase of 100,000. The question was, how is the minister claiming to boost tourism but anticipates less visitor growth over those 2 years? Instead, the minister went on to talk about the film industry, how the film industry or tourism. The film industry isn't tourism. They're coming here to work. They're coming here for the tax dollars. They create tourism once they're here. But those people who come here to film here in the province are coming here for a tax credit to work, to generate and produce films. They're not coming here to go for tours or to visit places. They simply come here to work. Most of the people on the production crews are fed by companies that come in and feed them. They're lodged in trailers on site. That they stay here only the length of the movie, and then they go back, and they come back and forth for filming. The people afterwards, when the movies are produced, people come up here to see where they were done, and the tourism happens then. But when they talk about people thanking Donald Trump, we just had in the House earlier today where we tabled the documents to show that the NDP government, in fact, moments after the tariffs were put in place, they were signing multi-million-dollar contracts with U.S. companies. And they have the audacity to come here and say that other people support when they clearly have demonstrated that they support it themselves. They wrote the contracts. We didn't write the contracts. So I'll ask the member one more time. Sorry, the minister one more time. No disrespect. The PC government had 1.7 million visitors in 2023 and increased by 1.7 million in 2023. Why has the NDP government only targeted increases of 400,000 and 100,000 for 2025 and 2026 respectively?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So on the topic of tourism, I just want to say it's an incredible position that I am in to be able to be the Minister for Tourism. I, since being appointed in the middle of November, have been able to meet with a number of stakeholders to discuss this incredible driver of our economy. And throughout being able to do that, you know, Colin Ferguson, who is in charge of Travel Manitoba, we've had great conversations about what this will look like, you know, on, I think for the last number of years, they've lobbied government to increase their funding to the 95-5 model. And so this year we did that. Just this year alone, we're investing $4.5 million more, which has been incredibly well received by the industry. And within that, you know, we've been able to increase funding to Indigenous tourism, which is really quite remarkable. We increased the funding for Indigenous tourism by $450,000, and that's going to go a long way to the Indigenous tourism operators that do such incredible work. And we heard from the industry that they are just so excited about this increase in funding. I had the great privilege of attending a press conference, and Indigenous tourism was there, and Travel Manitoba were there, and we had a really positive event, and so many stakeholders were there talking about how much this was going to mean to the tourism sector here in Manitoba. So this increase, the $4.5 million that we are increasing, is going to mean an additional $125 million in visitor spending. And it's going to mean that we're going to have an increase of $9 million in provincial revenue, an additional 770 jobs. That is significant. And so I am so proud of the work that our government and the department does on this file. So one thing that I've heard, though, from the industry is that they are incredibly worried about the threat of tariffs from Donald Trump. And that includes the film industry, just so we're clear on that. They're very worried about the threat of tariffs. And it's very clear. I don't know, I guess the member opposite might be a bit confused, but very clearly the member of the opposition thanked Donald Trump for tariffs. That's a direct quote that I can read here, and I'm going to read. The quote is, "It's clear as day that the member for Fort White said this," and the quote is, quote, "Trump wants a win. I think one of his clear wins, and a lot of Canadians' wins, was a change in federal government. He wanted Justin Trudeau gone, and thank God he's gone. So how much of an influence did the 25% tariff threat have on that? I would say a lot, and I would say thank you. I would say thank you, he's gone now." So I know that the member for Selkirk wants his leader to, you know, he wants to hope that his leader didn't say that, but he did. I mean, it's clearly on record as a quote. But I want to remind Manitobans and let Manitobans know that they have a government now that stands up for Manitobans, it stands up for them, and stands up for Canada. We have our leader, who is an incredible premier that is so well respected across this country and in our province, and he is taking a hard stance against tariffs and against Donald Trump. And I am proud to be a minister of the Crown with the NDP government, who is taking that stance, that tough stance against tariffs. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
The honourable member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Once again, no answers. I've asked several times. This is the second day we're in estimates with the minister, and we're not getting answers. The question was clearly, why are they predicting such a little increase in tourism growth under the NDP government? And all we got back was talking points. But what the talking points that matter, that when it comes to Trump and the tariffs, what really matters is who financially thanked that government, who financially wrote contracts to U.S. corporations for millions of dollars untendered and just try to pass them through. That's what the minister is not telling us here in estimates, is that the fact that the NDP government did that. They wrote contracts worth millions of dollars with U.S. corporations, and they're trying to deflect that again. So once again, the question on tourism is, why was the target increase so small when they're apparently claiming to spend much more money in the department? And again, we got no answer. So I'll move on. It looks like something I should be expecting today is no answers and talking points, but hopefully we can get the minister to answer something on this question, because it's very important to Manitobans. According to the Conference Board of Canada, the number of Indigenous-owned tourism businesses under the PC government more than doubled to 170 between 2019 and 2023. The PCs actually aim to return the Indigenous tourism sector to 2019 levels by 2025, which we actually accomplished way ahead of time. Given this huge progress that the PCs were able to accomplish despite a worldwide pandemic, why does the minister only project a total of 100 Indigenous tourism members for 2025?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. It's interesting that we're discussing Indigenous tourism because since becoming minister, I've been able to meet with, like I had said previously, many stakeholders regarding the tourism sector in general. And I have had the pleasure of meeting the head of Indigenous tourism, Holly Christine, on actually a number of occasions, whether it's at events or in my office or with the Premier in his office. And it has been a pleasure to get to know her. She is a powerhouse of a person and so committed to Indigenous tourism being a viable sector. We've spoken a lot about Indigenous tourism going a long way with regards to being a part of reconciliation and providing First Nations communities with the ability to be producing some great full-time jobs, sustainable jobs in their local communities, which is something that I'm really committed to, and I know our government is really committed to economic reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. And a part of our funding increase, I had stated, was the $450,000 that we've increased this year. But what I will say is that over the next, over 6 years, our increase is going to be $2.7 million. And that's sustainable, predictable, stable funding. And that's what we've heard from Indigenous tourism, is that one-offs or something that's in the budget one year and not the next, that's not the way the Indigenous tourism sector is going to grow. So with this increase in funding, they will be able to train, which is really important, really focus on taking those funds and training up the workforce for the Indigenous tourism operators to be able to have, like I'd said, those local jobs that will stay in the community, that will provide, really it'll be a boost to their local economies. So whether that is in First Nations communities or the surrounding areas, it's going to be able to have a positive impact on those communities. And really, the increase will really be able to provide opportunity. And I think that's something to be said within our government. We're committed to providing opportunity. And certainly, I had the chance of meeting with OCN Chief Maureen Brown, she's a pretty wonderful lady. We've had many conversations, and she actually owns a business in the Clear Lake area. And so it's, to her, something that's very personal is to be able to increase tourism and support the Indigenous tourism sector in continuing to grow. So the numbers I think that the member had been alluding to, the increase was to the Indigenous tourism membership. And so that was because there was a proper survey done. And so the numbers that were given were Indigenous tourism members. And so just because you're a member, that doesn't capture all of the Indigenous tourism operators. And so with the increase in funding, something that Indigenous tourism is going to do is focus on building up that membership and being able to provide those members, as they increase their members, that type of training and support to grow their business and really focus on that return on investment for these tourism operators. And we have incredible places to go. I got to learn a lot about that with meeting with the OCN Chief Maureen Brown and the head of Indigenous tourism, Holly Christine. We talked about the wonderful places to be able to visit. and to really have the authentic experience of being able to.
The member's time has expired. The honourable member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. That was a long answer. I appreciate the Minister talking about the increase of funding. The Indigenous-owned tourism businesses we have in our province are very important to the province and to our economic sector, and especially in Selkirk and the Interlake, where I am here to represent a very large Indigenous population. So I'm looking forward to an additional $2.7 million going into that sector. We did not talk about why there was only 100 Indigenous tourist members when they should be 170, or maybe the Minister covered that and I missed it. So I will move on again. It took almost 8 minutes to come up with that, and it's a very important question, so I'm glad we spent the time getting the information out on that. The previous PC government had supported the design and installation of a Chief Peguis statue as the first monument on the legislative grounds to commemorate First Nations. This is something that is dear to my heart. As I said, I represent a very large Indigenous percentage of the population in Selkirk, and I've also went to the school that bears the name of Chief Peguis. Proudly went to that school. Very important that this monument gets done. This monument was to be installed last September, but so far has been delayed. I hope this is just a process that is just taken a little bit longer than anticipated, but it is in the works. I would just like to know if the Minister can provide an update on this extremely important monument.
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. And I thank the member for the question. Chief Peguis is an incredible leader. And obviously on this side of the House, our NDP government celebrates incredible Indigenous leaders. I mean, we have our wildly popular and very effective Premier, who is an Indigenous man. We have the two First Nations women who have been appointed to cabinet, which is I mean, we're living history right now. It's pretty incredible. They're so effective as leaders in their own communities, but leaders within our cabinet and our caucus. You know, Minister for Families is truly an inspiration and a matriarch, a mentor to many of us. And Minister Smith, sorry, the Minister for Housing, Addictions, Homelessness, and responsible for mental health is a wonderful friend, such a great leader doing such important work in her portfolio. And Manitoba is lucky to have them, to have our Premier leading us. You know, I was able to, over the weekend, attend the Manitoba Festival for seeing all of the incredible culture and, you know, a festival that's been around for 20 years, marking this incredible milestone, and seeing the young leaders that are coming up. I was able to attend the first night there, seeing, you know, these incredible fashion designers with the fashion show. It was just truly remarkable, just to see the talent. And, you know, we are, it's just such a great place to, Manitoba. They really took the time and have taken the time to really engage newcomer populations that are here in Manitoba to, you know, really experience the best of Indigenous culture and art, and the spirit of the dance, the powwows. It's just, it's magical, really. I think that takes a lot of, it really does speak to reconciliation. And certainly our government is very committed to that. We do that, you know, I think on a daily basis by the things that we say, the things that we do, the decisions we make, the policies that come across, and it's something that we're really committed to. And what I would say is that it's something that, being the minister responsible for culture, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I always see things with regards to how can we move forward for true reconciliation. And so, of course, you know, the statue for Chief Peguis it's important. But what I will say to the member is this actually doesn't fall under my portfolio, and the commissioning of the statue falls under public service delivery. And so I would encourage him to reach out to my colleague, the minister responsible for public service delivery, for an update on that project. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dawson Trail.
Thank you. Can the minister, we're just going to shift gears a little bit here. Can the minister talk about how much of the 2025 budget has been allocated for community support grants, organizations, and what's the process for applying for these grants?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So part of my portfolio is obviously being Minister responsible for sport, and it's a pretty exciting place to be. We have such an incredible environment here in Manitoba for amateur sports. We have a huge amount of participants really throughout the whole province. I think we have over 70 different sporting organizations, that's quite a number. And I think within that number of sporting organizations, we have, I think the total amount of participants in the amateur sport environment sits at over 164,000 people, which includes the 16,300 coaches, which is just remarkable because those coaches are coaching amateur sport, which means they are likely volunteers giving up their time to the pursuit of sport. And amateur sport is a great place to be, to really, it's for kids. And so youth being able to participate in these many different activities is something that really lends itself to helping them explore who they are as people. I know my own son has played amateur sport, both in hockey and football, and it's just been tremendous for him, increasing his level of awareness and his confidence in himself and teamwork within, these lifelong friendships that he makes within these opportunities to play amateur sport. So amateur sport as well, if you think about it, it really increases tourism, which is also a part of my portfolio. And, it does that because with all these amateur sporting organizations and these sports that the youth take part in, there are tournaments and there are different events that come through. And so the local economies of where those events are being held will really reap the benefit, right? You've got people visiting, and so that's an increase to your hotel bookings and your restaurants and maybe local attractions, whether it's your local community museum, which also falls under my portfolio. And so it's great for different places within Manitoba who get to benefit from these events. And there's also within our department, a part of what my critic was asking, there is the small event hosting that's done through our department, and there is some funds for that. It's wildly popular, and so I believe this year it was its most popular year yet, and so of course we can't fund all of the applications that come in, but people are so thankful to be able to have that, to be able to apply for some funds to hold these small events. And something that's really exciting about our government and our government's approach and my department is that we've increased since coming into government the Sport Manitoba by $1 million, and that's significant. That is stable, predictable, sustainable funding. And $1 million for Sport Manitoba goes towards supporting these local athletes who have these really big dreams about where they are in their journey of being athletes. And so it's something that I'm very proud of. And what I've heard from the local amateur sporting community is that they are truly excited about this increase in funding as well. And certainly from Sport Manitoba, they are really delighted to see this increase in funding, and will be able to help a lot of local athletes with their athletic journey. So thank you, Honourable Chair, for that time.
The honourable member for Dawson Trail.
So I'd like to thank the minister, I guess, for what was perceived to be an answer, but I was specifically asking about sport grants, not small event grants, not any of that. And I'm sure when we're talking about all the coaches and we're going on about how they're such a fabulous part, and I agree they are, they volunteer their time and all that, but I'm sure they would like to know how to access these grants that I'm talking about here. So going into the next question, I'm going to ask how many grant applications were denied last year, and what was the main reason for those denials?
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So I'm curious if the member opposite can clarify the actual name of the grant program he's inquiring about, because there's a few different options here that I could provide information for, but is there a specific name to the grant program?
The Honourable Member for Dawson Trail.
So I'm guessing we're then backing up to my original question, which asked about what grants are available for community sport organizations. And then that would actually clarify for the minister exactly what we're talking about here in this estimates. I know that the former minister is in here, and I don't know if they have any input to put into this, but really what I'm asking about is if there's organizations or grant applications that are available for these community organizations to apply to for their sport and their amateur sport. There's also a question that I would have liked answered, but obviously we're not going to get to today, and it mainly applied to rural Manitoba and what kind of supports are in place for rural Manitoba, because there is life outside of the perimeter. So that's where I will end with that question right there, and hopefully the minister can answer.
The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So I appreciate the clarification from my critic. There's a bit of mansplaining going on there. I'm well aware that there is life outside the perimeter. I grew up in the Interlake on a farm and lived there a whole 18 years of my life. So I'm well aware that there is life outside the perimeter. So I just want to put that on the record there. So regarding grants, the only grant that's available through our department is the small event grant, and it's wildly popular. But with regards to funding, the main spending and the main funding with regards to sport is through our department. We fund Sport Manitoba. And we've increased our funding since taking office. We've increased our funding by $1 million, which is something that's been very well received and something that I am very proud of our government for doing. So the funding that Sport Manitoba gets, they provide funds to the provincial sport organizations. And that supports the local community amateur sport. So that's the way that that funding works. And basically, if there are any other questions about how that works, I can, I guess, answer that. But just for the members' own clarity, that is how the funding for sport works within our department. Thanks.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We're getting a little bit late in the day here, and it's a shame that of all the questions that we asked today, we've got an answer on one of them, that there was a typo. Instead of 2022, it should have said 2023. We had a tremendous number of talking points. You know, you can see that Mark Rosner is definitely in the building here, writing the information for the member opposite the minister to read out. And yet around the table, there is tremendous knowledge. The deputy minister is extremely respected and knowledgeable on these subjects, but we're not getting details. We're getting simply talking points that are provided. And the unfortunate part of that is we were sent here on behalf of the constituents that we represent. And in our critic files, we are here to ask the minister what is happening in those situations. All the information that we have asked throughout this was either ignored or it was twisted into something else. We talked many different times, and there's so many questions that I wanted to ask. You know, I wanted to talk about the film and video production tax credits and how that's being applied and where that's going on. We talked about different things. The minister just said that the grants that are available were only the small events grants, and I would have to say they failed. Yet last year, Selkirk had Indigenous Days in Selkirk. The Premier came out there looking to be a hero, like he's part of his event. And in fact, you know, he even suggested that they get a picture of him flipping pancakes, and they were told, no, we're not going to do that unless you're actually going to be here flipping pancakes. So they were turned down on their $5,000 grant application last year, and I hope that they're going to have it this year. I believe the date is June 21st. So if the minister can actually look at that, so we can carry on this wonderful celebration in Selkirk, and I've been a part of that for many years. Even prior to politics, I was donating their event tent for many, many years and donating as well as a private citizen. So these are things that are important in communities, and I hope we don't miss that. I'm very disappointed we didn't get any answers to what the people sent us here for. They weren't answers or questions to try to make the government look bad. They're just simply questions of what was happening. And based on the fact that we don't have any answers, I don't feel like wasting my time in this chamber asking any more today. So thank you.
Seeing no more questions, we'll move on to the resolutions. Resolution 14.2, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $46,844,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism, culture and heritage programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 14.3, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $3,242,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism information resources for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for the estimates of this department is item 14.1, bracket A, the minister's salary contained in resolution 14.1. At this point, we request that all ministerial and opposition staff leave the chamber for the consideration of this last item. The floor is open for questions. The honourable member for Dawson Trail.
So I'm going to move a motion here in a second. I just want to add a little bit before I do that. And in the minister's last response, there was something about mansplaining. I don't actually see gender. I've never referred to anyone as he, she, or any of that. I simply say they, because you're a minister of the Crown, as anyone else would be a minister of the Crown in that position. So it's nothing to do with that. So I'm going to move a motion now that has nothing to do with gender or anything else. I move that line item 14.1A be amended so that the Minister of Sport, Culture and Heritage and Tourism's salary be reduced to $1.
It has been moved by the honourable member for Dawson Trail that line item 14.1, bracket A, be amended so that the Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism's salary be reduced to $1. The motion is in order. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, is the committee ready for the question? Shall the motion pass? Yes. I hear a no. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. In my opinion, the nays have it. The motion is accordingly defeated. Resolution 14.1, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $41,684,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism, administration, and finance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates of the Department of Sport, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section is for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. The Honourable Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism.
I would request that we recess until 5 o'clock.
Is there leave to recess until 5 o'clock? Agreed. Committee recess. The hour being 5 p.m., committee rise, call in the speaker. Committee come back to order, please. The hour being 5 p.m., committee rise, call in the speaker. The hour being 5 p.m., this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 1:30 p.m. tomorrow.